The first singles title of the 2016 PBA Tour season is on the line in Tokyo, featuring USA's Chris Barnes, England's Dom Barrett, Venezuelan and PBA Hall of Famer Amleto Monacelli, and USA's John Szczerbinski, who will ascend the stepladder and claim the title at the 2016 DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Welcome to Japan. Mike Jakubowski with PBA Hall of Famer Randy Peterson. The PBA has conducted title events in Tokyo since 1968. A 32-player field has been invited to compete at historic Tokyo Port Bowl for the 2016 DHC PBA Japan Invitational. The top 5 finalists introduced moments ago. Number 5 seed, Shota Kawazoe.
A former Rookie of the Year, he once bowled back-to-back 300 games to win the 2010 ABS Japan Open.
Number 4 qualifier, Chris Barnes.
Barnes, coming off a recent back surgery, said he had to stand on his feet throughout the entire competition.
Number 3 seed, John Szczerbinski.
Szczerbinski looking for his first title. This is his first career singles telecast. He finished second in Bahrain. Maybe his first title comes via the international route.
Hall of Famer Amleto Monacelli.
The ageless one looking for his 20th title and 3rd in Japan.
Tournament leader, England's Dom Barrett.
A 4-time winner on the PBA Tour, including the 2013 PBA World Championship.
Top 5 finalists at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. And the stepladder classic battle opening up with Chris Barnes featuring Shota Kawazoe. The winner moves on to face John Szczerbinski, Monacelli in the semifinal, Dom Barrett in the title match. Shota Kawazoe competing for his home country, and Chris Barnes, Randy, fresh from back surgery, right away in competition for a title.
Yeah, he said the flight over, pretty tough on the back. As you know, it's about a 13-plus hour flight from his home in Dallas to Narita in Japan.
Barnes competing at the USA Team Trials at the end of 2015 to get himself back into playing shape. Opening shot, and the ball comes across the nose. He carries the crossover hit.
Had a little tip of the cap and a bit of sarcasm, and hey, crossing over and tripping the 6 out for a strike, that'll loosen your back up.
Shota Kawazoe representing Japan. 13 career JPBA titles in his career, looking for his very first PBA Tour title out of Nara, Japan. 5 years of pro with the Japanese PBA. His opening shot. And that ball gets into the nose. It's a 3-6-10. Shota mentioning he expects to be a little nervous. He's watched Chris Barnes compete, and now he's going up against Barnes.
Well, with good reason, Mike J., because Chris Barnes is not only a superstar on the PBA Tour, he's an international superstar as well.
Kawazoe lining up to shoot the 3-6-10. Ball goes wide of the 3 in open frame.
Yeah, and the nerves already getting him early on. So much pressure on Kawazoe with going up against a titan like Barnes, representing his country, bowling in front of his country. Lots and lots of pressure, but he's got to somehow find a way to get focused, shake off the early open, and start throwing strikes.
Shota's goal was to bowl as naturally as possible. How does one do that under such circumstances?
He's got to not think and just let his body do what he's trained it to do. As we take a look at the lane conditions here, 39 feet and a nice shot there. But it's old school, Mike J. We're bowling on wood, no synthetics. What's the difference between wood and synthetics? Well, wood's a much more porous surface, and the players talk about that in terms of what it does to their ball reaction. As you see the nice pin action, 6 taking the 10 out, Kawazoe talking to his coach. But the difference in ball reactions, the players now have to read earlier friction. The bowling balls are going to read this oil pattern much sooner than it would on a synthetic lane surface.
45-year-old Chris Barnes, second frame in our opening match, and the 10-pin falls late. If a player were to leave and convert the 7-10 split on today's show, he would earn the $100,000 ultimate spare bonus courtesy of Ultimate Bowling.
$100,000.
But no 10 to contend with.
Mike, do you know how many times the 7-10 split has been converted on television?
Just 3 times.
Just 3 times.
And interesting to note Barnes' wrist position when he completed that spare.
Yeah, and all the players do, you know, they do the same thing, whether they're, as we take a look at his arsenal using the dark matter, but players either go to a spare ball that is made up of plastic or urethane, or they take that strike ball, they break the wrist back, and they throw it hard and straight.
Third frame, Chris Barnes. Solid pitch right through the 8 and the 9 for a strike.
So he didn't like the Brooklyn first shot on that left lane, so he stays with the same ball on both lanes, and this is perfect. And we talk about ball reaction on wood. This is ideal for Chris Barnes because he likes to get his bowling ball to read early and not do a whole lot of stuff down the lane. He doesn't like to see that big hook down lane. He's got a very extreme end-over-end roll, and this really suits his eye and his game.
And that ball goes wide, missing the head pin. 1, 2, 4. A couple of tentative shots early from Kawazoe.
Yeah, and both on the right lane. Remember, he went high the first shot, left the 3-6-10 and missed it. Now he goes wide and leaves the 1-2-4. And there is a lot of calculations going on in that young man's head right now.
Good conversion, ball clips each of the 3 and a spare in the third for Kawazoe. And a look at the arsenal. The hook number indicates on a scale of 10 the hook potential, and not the strongest ball, and I think we're going to see quite a bit of that on this surface. Why?
Yeah, he's using the heat, and it's kind of the same hook potential for both players, and it's because it's on wood and it's fairly short at 39 feet.
Shota Kawazoe advancing to the top 5 with the best match play record, 25-7. He said that my match play record is going to give me confidence to compete on this stepladder. Hasn't showed it early, although it's early in the match. 4th frame, trailing by 11 pins. Much better shot.
He likes the left lane. He's got to figure out what to do on the right lane and hope that Barnes doesn't get too far ahead. But this is a nice shot here. Watch the pin action in the back. Almost leaves a stone 9. I always loved the pin carry at Tokyo Port Bowl. Man, it was one of my favorite places in all the world to bowl. Not to mention the food's pretty good as well.
Defending champion Chris Barnes with a perfect game in the semifinal last time around. Has a strike looking to build on his lead. 4th frame. That ball roars off of what they call the spot.
Yeah, and you know, Chris Barnes uses 16 pounds, and you can see the pin carry with this 16-pound bowling ball going through the pins. He's playing a little more angle and a little farther right on that right lane. Looked like the 7 and the 10 were the last 2 on the deck once again on that right lane. But watch how much more direct and down the lane he goes with this next shot on the left lane.
Barnes having back surgery to repair a disc just a few months ago, returning to competitive form. 5th frame, plus 21. And Barnes gets the 10 to fall.
Yeah, just another great shot. I'll tell you, looking at Chris's physical game, boy, you wouldn't know that he just had back surgery just a few months ago. He looks really, really solid.
Barnes admittedly not 100%, but over his great career, he knows what he has and how to use it. Shota Kawazoe has rolled 11 career 300 games, Randy, including 2 consecutively on TV.
Well, he needs to conjure up some of that same mojo because Chris Barnes is working on 3 in a row, and Kawazoe hasn't struck yet on this right lane.
Strike for Kawazoe. The 2 perfect games on television led to his victory in the 2010 ABS Japan Open. Now, extra frame tournament highlights of Kawazoe shooting perfect in the match play portion of this event. In the 10th, 11th, and now the 12th.
Good stuff there. Some nice pin action and some nice shot making.
All of which led to a 25-7 match play record, leading to a 5th seed in this DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Halfway through our opening match, the winner here will move along the stepladder to face John Szczerbinski, and now Shota Kawazoe can cut into the Barnes lead with some strikes working here. 6th frame.
You see that yellow pin on his bowling ball just above the ring finger. That drilling will help create length and get the bowling ball down the lane.
Kawazoe crosses over but folds the 6 and cuts the Barnes lead to 11 pins. Opening match, Chris Barnes is back from back surgery, and the winner will advance along the stepladder. The conclusion of our opening match when we return to Tokyo. And the Rainbow Bridge leading into the Tokyo Port area on the way to Tokyo Port Bowl. And the DHC PBA Japan Invitational rolls on. Chris Barnes with 4 out of 5 strikes. Kawazoe, after a tentative start, has turkeyed, and he only trails by 11. But Barnes, hammer in hand, 6th frame, can extend his lead.
And once again, he almost leaves that soft pocket 7-10, the 10 falling late with so much friction because of the wood surface and that heavy end-over-end roll and the angle this bowling ball is entering the pins. Barnes really running the risk of leaving that pocket 7-10 on that right lane.
Again with Chris Barnes, note the wrist position as he attacks the 7 pin. Spare for Barnes maintains a 10-pin lead in our opening match. And, coming up, it's Big February and the PBA Tournament of Champions. In Shawnee, Oklahoma coming up, Jason Belmonte, historic run. Can he go for 3 in a row? He's got the titles in 14 and 15.
Boy, he's pretty much owned the majors over the last few seasons, hasn't he?
He goes for the 3-peat. It's the Fire Lake PBA Tournament of Champions next Sunday, 2 Eastern, live on ESPN. The 3-time PBA Player of the Year will go for 3 at the Tournament of Champions. 7th frame now, 10-pin lead for Chris Barnes. In our opening match, the winner gets John Szczerbinski next on the stepladder. 7th frame, 6 around the 10.
Well, he liked that one too. You could see just in his reaction, not very pleased with that ringing 10. Chris is bowling a really nice, tight, clean game. Yeah, Chris will let you know his thoughts.
Tentative landing, but Barnes picks up the spare. We've seen quite a bit of that through match play. Barnes still finding his legs after coming back from back surgery, his first competitive event in the PBA. He did compete at the Team USA Trials, but this is for a PBA Tour title. And Shota Kawazoe would love to have one. He's won 13 times on the JPBA Tour, earning 2010 JPBA Rookie of the Year honors. Locked up with Barnes. Some strikes working.
A little short follow through.
Into the nose and another 3-6-10.
Watch this short abbreviated follow through. A little reminiscent of Stu Williams. And it's the modern game. You know, back when I was coming up through the ranks, we were all taught that big, long follow-through. Got to follow through to the ceiling. Man, how the game has changed over the last 20 to 30 years.
And a carbon copy open frame skating wide of the 3-pin.
0 for 2 on the 3-6-10, both on the right lane. Chris Barnes just got a big hit of oxygen watching that whiff.
We're on the wood lane surface at Tokyo Port Bowl. Wood approaches wood lanes on the 39-foot oil pattern. Kawazoe mentioning that the fresh is touchy in places. How can that be?
Well, I think a fresh oil pattern on any surface is going to be touchy until the pattern starts to break down. The players are going to struggle trying to find some consistency in ball reaction. But, you know, this pattern is going to break down much faster on wood than it would on synthetics.
And a nice slide of the 4 and 7. The light hit provides a strike for Kawazoe to build on in the 8th.
The biggest difference that I see in the two ball reactions between Barnes and Kawazoe is that Barnes has so much more end-over-end roll that Chris's ball reads sooner, and it blends the pattern out. That's the difference in the match right there, is the two open frames, both 3-6-10 whiffs on the right lane for Kawazoe.
Barnes in the 8th shakes out the light hit.
I just think that the end-over-end heavy roll of Chris Barnes is able to blend this pattern out, that early roll, that end-over-end roll. I think that's a big advantage for Chris.
Foundation frame.
Look out.
In the nose, and it's 3-6-10 with the 9-pin.
Yeah, and the 9-pin was the last pin that Chris wanted to see standing after this one. Goes right through the schnoz. Tough spare attempt coming up because of that 9-pin, that back pin. He knows it, and this couldn't have come at a worse time. That 9th frame, he was working on a strike. He could have really closed the door on Kawazoe. Right now, looking to try to convert the 3-6-9-10 and cover that back pin, the 9-pin.
Perfect conversion for Chris Barnes. And let's take another look with your hammer tough spare replay.
Yeah, this is perfect. Watch what makes this spare difficult is that back pin. You have to throw a hook to cover that 3-9 and kick that 6-10 out. Chris Barnes does it perfectly, but that spare has gotten so tough on the regular tour that nowadays we see a lot of players throwing the ball straight and hard right at the 3-9.
Shota, important foundation frame. Strike working. And he shakes out the 4 and the 7. It's within 14.
Well, this ball hooks back from Yokohama. Check this thing out. Wow.
A dream situation for Shota Kawazoe to compete against Chris Barnes. And can he climb back in with 2 strikes in the 10th? He can take the lead. Looking to advance in front of the hometown fans at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Kawazoe toes the line, 10th frame. Powerful shot, best shot of the match for Kawazoe.
Well, that was a big shot, but the bigger shot was the strike on the right lane, and that gives him a little confidence and a little life, and this shot here was perfect. If he converts just one of the 3-6-10s on that right lane, he would have the lead now. He can strike out for 224. Barnes is strike spare away from 218.
And the 7 and the 10 fall in unison. It's a lead change. Kawazoe now +6. And Barnes can't believe it.
What do you think that smile was? Was that a smile of, hey, that was pretty fun to watch, or, wow, did you just get lucky?
The latter. And now Barnes will have to perform in the 10th, as Kawazoe has taken the lead and can go off the sheet for 224.
Yep.
220 finale for Shota Kawazoe, but he's going to make Barnes do some work.
Yeah. Barnes needs 2 strikes and 3 pins to win by 1.
Four rounds of match play, a flight across the Pacific Ocean, Barnes recovering from back surgery, playing himself back to competitive form, and now must strike twice and some loose change to advance along the step ladder. 10th frame. Barnes packs the pocket.
Yeah, beautiful shot. It looked like he went a little bit more direct and firmed up his ball speed, but that entered dead flush. That was perfect. Let's not forget that Chris Barnes is 45 years old now. And even after back surgery, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want a piece of Barnes. All those titles, money, and experience. Needs 1 more strike and 3 to move on.
And something doesn't feel right, so Barnes will reset. And a reboot of the pre-shot routine, and now the same situation, strike to advance. Perfect shots.
Yeah, good stuff.
Shota Kawazoe going up against Barnes. The difference, 2 3/6/10.
Yeah, Barnes with another strike here will be a 228. And you're right, Mike. The big difference is the 2 open frames on the right lane, missing the 3/6/10 twice.
Barnes advances. Final score 227-220. Shota Kawazoe with a 5th place finish on home turf here at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. But it's Barnes who will move on, and he will face John Szczerbinski
Shota
coming up
Kawazoe,
next
227
on our
to
step
220.
ladder.
He will advance to face John Szczerbinski.
Chris Barnes advances over Shota Kawazoe and will face fellow Wichita State alum John Szczerbinski next on the step ladder from Tokyo. Chris Barnes with 2 strikes in the 10th dispatches Shota Kawazoe to move along the step ladder. 227, 220 winner for Barnes, advancing to face John Szczerbinski. Monacelli and Barrett yet to come at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Time now for this Ebonite flashback to last year and the inaugural DHC.
And Chris Barnes with the first 11 strikes in a row in the semifinal match.
Perfect game and a 5 million yen, 40,000 plus bonus. And Barnes would move on and win with this performance.
Chris Barnes in complete control of this match against Mike Fagan until the 9th frame. Good shot, leaves the pocket 4-9 split and leaves an opening for Mike Fagan. If Fagan strikes out in the 10th here, he forces Barnes to double. Comes in late, leaves that soft 10, and Chris Barnes just needs a mark in the 10th frame. And what better way to mark than by throwing the first strike?
DHC PBA Japan Invitational champion John Szczerbinski and Chris Barnes will meet to determine who advances to the semifinal next in Tokyo. Tokyo Mass Transit, 13 lines and 290 stations make up the Tokyo subway. Welcome back to the DHC PBA Japan Invitational at Tokyo Port Bowl. Mike Jakubowski with 89 Japan Cup winner and Hall of Famer Randy Peterson. Now John Szczerbinski will take on Chris Barnes. Szczerbinski, his first crack at Barnes in a televised setting. Final stats for Barnes: 7th on the average list, 3rd in earnings, as the back surgery prevented him from competing at the PBA Fall Classic and Geico PBA World Series of Bowling 7. But Barnes on the comeback trail after surgery and after an opening stepladder victory against Shota Kawazoe. Opening shot against Szczerbinski. Picks up where he left off. Strike for Barnes.
He finished perfectly in his last match. Question for me is, what is the back going to do throughout the telecast? Is it going to get stiff? Is it going to hold up? How's Chris Barnes going to do physically?
27-year-old John Szczerbinski out of North Tonawanda, New York. First appearance in a televised PBA singles final. And he'll do it against Barnes. Opening pitch. And a 6 around the 10.
Where did you say he's from?
North Tonawanda, New York.
Isn't that like a fancy way of saying Buffalo?
That is.
That's what I thought. John Szczerbinski is one of the players on our tour that I really like watching. He's got a great physical game. It's kind of old school with power. Just great balance at the foul line, swing direction, a great hand, pretty good rev rate. Just real simple, just efficiency of motion when I watch him bowl. It doesn't look like a lot of wasted movement.
Spare for Szczerbinski, and after the Fall Classic, John was dissatisfied with his performance, and he worked with Hank Boomershine and Mike Jasnow. With the work paying off at the U.S. Open, John led qualifying there, but a couple of hitches in match play, and it's such an important part of the growing process on the PBA Tour. Success in qualifying, success in match play, success on television.
Yeah, and it's all part of the learning curve as well. You know, you have to take it from one stage to the next, and then obviously once you get on television, that's a different animal as well.
And a weak 10 that time for Szczerbinski.
And again, this is part of the learning curve as well, Mike J, in trying to figure out what bowling ball to use, where to play, what hand position, what type of spin or rotation are we going to put on the bowling ball to carry those 10 pins. He left a ringing 10 on the right lane. This is a flat 10 on the left lane. And for me, that means that the ball's not going through the pins correctly to knock all 10 down at the same time.
Spare for Szczerbinski going up against Chris Barnes. And Randy, you've come back from major injury to return to competitive form, and you see Barnes there stretching out. What is the process to come back from major injury?
Well, it's both physical and mental, to be honest. The physical part obviously involves rehabbing the injury and whatever part of the body the surgery was performed on, getting your body back in shape. But then mentally, it's believing that you can come back and understanding that it's a process, and sometimes that process takes a lot of time. So you have to be patient. You have to be patient with your body, give it time to heal, and then mentally just kind of hang in there and believe that you'll be back to the form that you were once at.
Barnes' second frame on the strike, and early double against Szczerbinski.
You see, Barnes is locked in not only with ball reaction, but with pin carry. And the difference early on right here is that Barnes has hit the pocket twice in a row, but he's kicked the 10 out both times. John Szczerbinski can get to the pocket. He's proven that in 2 frames. He has to figure out how to carry.
Barnes assessing the playing surface with early hook, Randy, and tighter down lanes, and he says it happens to fit my look with what I can generate.
Because of his ball roll being so end over end, Mike, he's not going to cover a lot of room in the back part of the lane.
Opening double, third frame. And flirting with the 7-10 once again. This time the 7 falls.
So remember, Mike, that the ball always travels in direction of rotation once friction's created. So if you watch here, you can see how up the back and how heavy end over end roll Chris Barnes puts on the bowling ball. Well, that keeps the down lane reaction very smooth and very subtle, as opposed to a bowling ball like, say, Pete Weber, where he's really rotating off the side of the ball. Skinny jeans right there on the 10 pin for Barnes, but safely covers the 10.
And we've seen that several times during match play and several times today. He's just not completely comfortable with his footing and with his legs. But he does get the spare there. This Rolltech stat best average for an 8-game round in this event was John Szczerbinski, 249 average in round 2. This was a match play event, 4 rounds of 8 games each, 32 players, 32 match games. In fact, Szczerbinski and Barnes needed a 33rd to set the positioning, with Szczerbinski the number 3 seed, third frame. And that into the nose in the 3-6-9-10.
It looked like John changed bowling balls there in trying to create better pin carry. And boy, I've seen this so many times throughout my career. You try to make a change because you make great shots and you don't strike, and then the next thing you know, you go through the nose, and now he's left himself with a really tough spare conversion, the 3-6-9-10.
And he chops away the 10 remaining. Open frame.
One-game matches on television are brutal, especially when you go through practice, you've made your decision to use a certain ball playing a certain line, and it doesn't work early on. It's really easy to fall into that panic mode. You make a change, and the next thing you know, it's an open frame.
Szczerbinski mentioning needing to get over the hurdle of match play. He had success here in 32 games of match play, going 20 and 12. Now fourth frame. 6 around the 10. How do you get over the hurdle of match play?
Well, he's proven that he can do that. It's getting through a couple of wins on television and winning the tournament. But right now, he's on his second piece of equipment, and the results are the same. John's made 3 out of 4 great shots and has not struck yet.
Covers his spare. Szczerbinski in an early hole, the Barnes double. And Szczerbinski open, combining for the Barnes lead. Now fourth frame. Chris Barnes admits he doesn't have access to his total toolbox, Randy, but he's able to do what he does. What is he doing in this situation?
Well, right now he's using the big monkey wrench, which is his favorite tool, and that's up the back end over end and keeping the ball pretty straight through the front part of the lane.
Fourth frame. Pocket hit for Barnes, drives 10 back.
You notice the overall ball motion between the two players is completely different. Again, has to do with ball roll. Barnes is going through the pins the right way. He's carrying 10. Szczerbinski is not. So what's the common denominator when a player changes bowling balls, goes from one to the next, and still can't strike? It's the player. The player then has to change ball roll. Szczerbinski right now should be looking at trying to keep his hand more up the back and doing a lot more of what Chris Barnes is doing.
Barnes says his ball rolls pretty good in this place. Fifth frame. And he mixes out the hit, the 7 the last to fall.
The difference in pin carry right now is because of the different ball rolls from the two players. Chris Barnes more up the back, more end over end. Szczerbinski more off the side, more side rotation. That's been the difference. Barnes is able to carry all 10. Szczerbinski has yet to strike.
And a look at the arsenal of John Szczerbinski, switching from the high road to the skyrocket.
Same hook potential, but two completely different bowling balls.
Szczerbinski gets a strike in the 5th.
John, much farther left, opening the lane up more. You can see there's your back end reaction, and finally the 6 goes to the sidewall to kick the 10 out.
Part of Szczerbinski's assessment of his strategy for lane play, a little friction on wood. Usually the front gets drier faster, pushing you further left, and we're seeing Szczerbinski operate in that fashion. Now 6th frame trying to cut into the Barnes lead. And double for Szczerbinski, cutting into the lead of Barnes. John Szczerbinski is in pursuit of his first National PBA Tour title. More of our stepladder next from Tokyo Port Bowl. Be sure to stay logged on to PBA.com for all the latest PBA news, player updates, tournament information. PBA.com is also the place to purchase tickets to the ESPN TV finals of all 3 February majors: the Fire Lake PBA Tournament of Champions, the USBC Masters, and the Barbasol PBA Players Championship. Head to PBA.com and click on the tickets link for more information. Halfway home in our second match in the DHC PBA Japan Invitational, Chris Barnes plus 25, double working, can increase his lead. 6th frame. Winner here gets Amleto Monacelli, PBA Hall of Famer, coming up next in the semifinal. Flat 10 that time.
Yeah, it looked like he just got it a little bit right of target, and the ball comes in soft, leaving that half 10. Definitely a little bit farther right down lane. Watch this new spare technique. Look at him, wrist broken back, using the strike ball for spares now.
Barnes picking up the spare, the history of the PBA in Japan in 3 parts. First competed as Japan Gold Cup between 1968 and 1973, and then the Japan Cup from 85 to 2014, and now this DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Randy, you were a Japan Cup winner in 1989. It's a difficult process to come and compete overseas, and then you succeeded and did it here in Japan.
Well, I always loved coming over to Japan and competing, and it was you know, one of the things on my bucket list was to win the Japan Cup, and it's just a great place to bowl and compete.
And another flat 10.
When you come over to Japan and win, you're a rock star, and you know, we all knew that back in the 80s, coming over in the 90s, and so it was one of the events that we coveted, and man, it's just a special place to compete and be a part of.
Barnes picks up that 10-pin, and Randy, among venues on the PBA Tour, this one hasn't changed very much from when you competed and won here.
Same format, you know, it was always the top 16 American versus the top 16 Japanese. You came over and it was 32 games a match play, and they cut the field of the top 5 for television. And the only thing that's changed since the last time I won is the money's better.
Best pro finish for Szczerbinski, second in the 2014 Bahrain Open, looking for his first PBA Tour title. 6-time Team USA member. It's go time. He trails and he's got strikes working. 7th frame.
He's creating a lot of angle through the front part of the lane now, Mike, and he gets that one just a little bit right, and it leaves a flat 10. Watch this. Well, he's really opening up this oil pattern now, and you know, that's the risk that you run into when creating that much angle.
Szczerbinski working to enjoy having to perform at the highest level, and you can only get that with experience. Spare conversion for Szczerbinski, slashing the box in the 7th, trails by 24, and now moving into the 8th frame. Max scores for the players. Barnes in control. And now Szczerbinski stepping up to work in the 8th. Szczerbinski holds a degree in business administration from Wichita State University and lets it fly. And gets the 10 to fall that time. Strike.
Yeah, falls late, but it still falls. And right now, he's in that area of having to strike out to have a chance in this match.
Barnes a winner in the opening match against Japan's Shota Kawazoe. Plus 24, 8th frame, working on the spare. Didn't like it, 3-6-10. What didn't he like?
Well, didn't like that it was left of target and a bad shot. Remember the last time he got a little wide on this lane and left that soft 10, and this is straight up the gut and right through the face.
Barnes will always let you know what's on his mind, and now a tougher spare. We've seen this one missed a couple times today, the 3, 6, and the 10 without the sleeper 9. And shaves the 3 out. All 3 fall, slash for Barnes and spare. Sigh of relief. And the safe signal. Barnes picked up a few things competing at the USA team trials, and one of those, Randy, was ball speed. He just flat said, I'm limited with ball speed.
Well, but he's still able to do the one thing that he's probably the best on tour at, and that's the end-over-end roll, and that fit this tournament in this pattern.
Foundation frame for Barnes. 6 kicks the 10 out nicely that time.
And Chris Barnes with this strike sets up the 10th frame, and no matter what John Szczerbinski does, he can't shut out Chris Barnes. And there's the 6-pin going to work on the 10.
Foundation frame, John Szczerbinski, strike working. He can max at 223. And a double. Szczerbinski cuts the lead.
Well, he can strike out and force Chris Barnes to throw the first hit in the 10th, but what a beautiful game. There's not a lot that can go wrong when you throw it like John Szczerbinski.
Big of stature, but soft of hand. How does he accomplish that?
Big guy, but he's you know, he's just got a nice, clean, smooth stroke to his game, and again, just very simple, compact, short swing, and then a really good hand at the bottom.
And the 10-pin stands.
You know, it's just really one shot that I can remember that really cost him. It was the 3, 6, 9, 10 that he missed, but it's been all about pin carry or lack of pin carry. He's hit the pocket a lot this game, but he's left a lot of 10 pins.
Spare for Szczerbinski, fill ball remaining for a max score of 202. Amleto Monacelli is waiting for the winner coming up next in our semifinal. Szczerbinski still in pursuit of his first PBA Tour title. He and Barnes out of the great Wichita State University collegiate program. Mixing out the fill for 202, Szczerbinski. Has finished, and now Barnes to advance. Can't say enough about Barnes. Just needing a mark for the win. Back surgery in October. Chance to compete at the Team USA trials, and puts himself right in contention for a PBA Tour title.
Bowling on a wood surface, which is, you know, in his wheelhouse. He's in complete control. knows exactly what his bowling ball is going to do when it leaves his hand. It's just a matter of whether or not he can hold it together physically now.
Strike, and Barnes has advanced to the semifinal. Trying to go back-to-back at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Chris Barnes will face Amleto Monacelli coming up next in our semifinal. Xtra Frame, the PBA's online video subscription service, has a huge February lined up with live coverage of 3 majors over 3 consecutive weeks. Xtra Frame will have exclusive qualifying and match play coverage of the Fire Lake PBA Tournament of Champions, the USBC Masters, and the Barbasol Players Championship. 3-day, monthly, and yearly subscriptions are available. For more information, click on the Xtra Frame link at pba.com. DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Chris Barnes moving up the stepladder. His next step is Amleto Monacelli. The winner will face Dom Barrett for the title. Geico PBA World Series of Bowling 7 concluded the 2015 PBA Tour in Reno, Nevada at the National Bowling Stadium. And Gary Faulkner Jr. captured the Rolltech PBA World Championship in historic fashion.
And Gary Faulkner went through some really great players en route to the title match, taking out Scott Norton, Rhino Page, and Ryan Simonelli. And then in the title match, taking down E.J. Tackett. But Gary Faulkner Jr. was simply brilliant on this day.
He was cool, he was calm, he was collected, and he became a PBA major champion. Also in the pattern championships, the PBA Cheetah Championship goes to a Hall of Famer.
Parker Bone III on the Cheetah Oil pattern. He loves to throw it hard from the outside part of the lane. And he did just that, capturing his 35th title.
Good for 5th on the all-time list. Moving on to the PBA Viper Championship. Lefty Ryan Simonelli.
Ryan Simonelli, hot off of his U.S. Open victory, captures the Viper Championship, puts his name in the hat for the Player of the Year race, which he would narrowly lose in a very tight race to Jason Belmonte.
The PBA Chameleon Championship featured an all-international field.
And how fun was this young man? Jesper with the two-handed style, throwing the urethane heater.
Jesper Svensson claims his PBA Tour title at the World Series of Bowling.
And Rookie of the Year honors.
PBA Scorpion Championship. John Van Hees looking for his first PBA Tour win.
And on a tough condition, Jonathan Van Hees was the only player to make this pattern look easy. Carrying that messenger and carrying home the hardware in his first title.
You never forget your first. Chris Barnes has 18 PBA Tour titles, looking for 19. PBA Hall of Famer Amleto Monacelli has 19, looking to get his 20th. Semi-final next.
Final match, Chris Barnes versus Amleto Monacelli.
Mike Jakubowski with PBA Hall of Famer Randy Peterson. Welcome back to Tokyo Court Bowl. Semi-final match in the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Chris Barnes, 2 victories, and now meeting Hall of Famer Amleto Monacelli in our semi-final. Barnes holding up Randy so far through 2 matches.
Yeah, he looks really good. Amleto Monacelli at age 54. Wow, amazing. Here's a player who knows a thing or two about bowling on a wood surface.
Opening shot, higher seed Monacelli elects to begin the match. And can opener as the 10-pin falls to the right.
Still has a lot of power for a player of his age.
Monacelli mentioning that he grew up on wood lanes, and bowling with a bad surface taught him how to get the ball through the heads.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about right now. As the lanes break down, transition, the players migrating left. Chris Barnes has already changed balls for this match.
2 victories for Barnes. Opening shot and into the nose. Wobble on the 10.
Nice break, not splitting, only leaving the 10 pin. A lot of hook down lane with this new bowling ball. You can see the back end reaction there.
Barnes, the defending DHC PBA Japan Invitational winner. 2 more matches to repeat. And again, a tough landing on the 10 pin, but he converts. And today's Columbia 300 fun fact, both Chris Barnes and Amleto Monacelli have won 2 PBA titles here at Tokyo Port Bowl. Monacelli in 1987 and 1995, Barnes in 2003 and last year here in Tokyo. And Barnes treads the rack. Spare and a strike.
Dead flush, 10 in the pit for Chris Barnes.
Monacelli talking about using weak balls, and we'll get a look at his arsenal as he has the track heat. 7 points on the 10-point hook scale. Strike from Monacelli, saying that the breakdown is not as rapid, so he went to the weaker ball as the blocks progressed.
Oh, it's also the fact that it's on wood and it's a shorter pattern. You don't need the real strong, aggressive bowling balls. Plus, Amleto has a very high rev rate.
Most televised appearances in PBA history. The greatest of all time, Walter Ray Williams Jr. on top of that list. 7th is Amleto Monacelli, and entering the top 10 for the first time, now tied with Brian Voss, is Chris Barnes in the most televised appearances ever. 3rd frame semifinal. And the 6 tips to 10, opening turkey for Monacelli.
Beautiful stroke and really nice ball reaction. And when you see the 6 go to the sidewall and take the 10 out as a right-hander, that's a really good sign.
Monacelli and PBA Tour Deputy Commissioner Kirk Von Kruger. Chris Barnes, the 7-8 PBA Player of the Year, also earning 98 Rookie of the Year honors. And 4-7 remaining for Barnes.
Both shots that he's thrown on this right lane have gone high. And as a player, when you make the adjustment to a different bowling ball and it doesn't work, all of a sudden the question marks start to appear.
Barnes has backed off once or twice today as feel dictates, and a reset on the spare attempt. And again, the technique chosen by Barnes to use spares here.
Started back in 2009 when he started to compete in all of the World Tour events, and traveling the world, you're limited to the amount of equipment that you can carry on with you and take on international flights. And so Chris went away from the plastic spare ball and learned how to use a weaker strike ball to shoot his spares with. You know, Norm Duke's done it forever. And if the bowling ball's rolling end over end with very little revolutions, the chances of the ball curving aren't real good.
4th frame semifinal. 10 back for Chris Barnes.
An interesting back to the ball he's used the first 2 games.
Monacelli, 19 tour titles. He's been there since 2005. His last win coming at the 2005 Jackson Hewitt Tax Service Open in Fair Lawn, Ohio. Has been trying to crack 20 for the better part of a decade. Wide path of the pocket, and he drills him straight back, front 4.
Now let's take a look at our track tech talk at Amleto Monacelli. You know, 34 years ago, when Amleto first came out on tour, they tried to change this beautiful style. And it really is the prototypical power style. The difference being his hand is actually open quite a bit at the top of the swing, but what that does is it gets to the hand to the inside part of the bowling ball at the bottom of the swing.
Monacelli perfect from the start. Number 2 position on the stepladder, 24-8 in his match play in this 4-round round-robin match play event. Right, shakes out the double wood.
And missed target right. Coming in light, just leaving the 2-pin, but watch, this is pretty good distance to right of target. Amleto fortunate that the 10-pin isn't standing.
Single pin for Monacelli, first non-strike. Covers and a lead for Monacelli through 5. And Barnes will get a fresh set of pins. Coming up next Sunday on ESPN, live coverage of the Barbasol PBA Tournament of Champions, where Jason Belmonte has owned the event the previous 2 years.
And he's owned just about every major for the last few years as well, but certainly back-to-back wins at the Tournament of Champions.
Can the 3-time PBA Player of the Year three-peat at the Tournament of Champions? Find out next Sunday live at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Jason actually pulled out of this event to welcome the arrival of his 3rd child, so congratulations to the Belmonte family.
Ryan Schaefer taking the place of Belmonte here and at the DHC in Barnes with a double. Cuts into the lead of Monacelli.
So now you have to ask yourself, well, what was it that Barnes saw between the last match and practice for this match that tempted him to change bowling balls? Because now he's back to the ball he used to win the first 2 opening matches.
Always thinking, always calculating. Chris Barnes going with this equipment option. And now a chance to get the lead to single pins, trying to ascend the stepladder to defend his title here in Tokyo. The wood surface and the wood lanes of Tokyo Port Bowl. Semifinal match, 6th frame. Push, trip 4 for Barnes, and the lead is 9 pins. Chris Barnes trying to displace Amleto Monacelli and advance to the title match. The rest of our semifinal when we return to Tokyo Port Bowl. DHC PBA Japan Invitational semifinal match. Monacelli 4-bagger spare and a 9-pin lead. Chris Barnes has a turkey on the board. Monacelli 6th frame. Working on the spare, and he leads by 9. Drives 10 back.
Another brilliant shot here by the man who has somehow rediscovered the fountain of youth, Amleto Monacelli. The only thing missing from his arsenal would be maybe an occasional dab at the end of a strike.
A win today would put him in a tie for 12th place on the all-time PBA Tour titles list, and a couple of other potentials as well, including being one of the oldest players ever to win on the PBA Tour. 7th frame. And a big break as he crumbles the 4-9.
Now, if there was ever a Cam Newton dab, it would be after this shot.
Little dab will do you. Monacelli's mental game has excelled. He says since a PBA 50 stop, Randy, in Brentwood, California, where he's really coming to the realization that controlling emotions and anxiety without expectations has been his key.
Well, I've always thought that Amleto was really good mentally, and along with his physical strengths, you know, that's what makes a champion. And you don't get to the Hall of Fame without having both of the ingredients, physically and mentally.
Barnes strikes working. Cuts into the Monacelli lead again. It's single pins, and now Barnes can take the lead with a strike in the 8th.
Right now, he has to be questioning that ball change early on. In the 1st and 3rd frame, he changed bowling balls and went through the nose twice on this right lane. Went back to the ball he used the first 2 games, and he's back in the match. But losing those 2 frames, you know, the what-ifs now start to creep in. 6th in all-time career money at a little more than $2.3 million. And I would venture to say that Chris is still has most of that in the bank.
Eighth frame to take the lead.
Oh,
6 around the 10, vicious ringing 10.
really good shot too. Really needed this one to stay close enough to Amleto to make him think about it. And there's that ugly ringing 10.
Barnes covers the 10. Amleto Monacelli was inducted into the PBA Hall of Fame in 1997. His last win coming in 2005. Trying to get to 20, something only 13 have done previously. 6 of 7 strikes, 8th frame. No doubt strike 10 straight back.
Amleto wants to keep the pressure on Chris Barnes. He does that, just that. He's got to keep his foot on the accelerator. You don't give players an opportunity to get back in the match. Once you have them down, it's putting a foot firmly on the throat of your opponent. One more strike here. Amleto is really going to send a message to Chris Barnes saying, hey, you're not beating me today.
And the 7 pin goes down late. Light hit. Monacelli carries it, and this Barbasol close shave of the day, nicking the 7.
And this is all but going to ensure Amleto a shot at this title. Great pin action. That's why you put power and revolutions on a bowling ball.
Monacelli in the driver's seat. Barnes up, will complete his game first in the 9th and 10th. Can still shoot 249. Light and a 2-8-10. That is likely going to send Monacelli to the title match.
Bad off his hand, bad direction, and now it's the 2-8-10 for Barnes.
Open frame. Amleto Monacelli will advance and face Dom Barrett for the DHC PBA Japan Invitational title. Doubles title already on the board in 2016, belonging to Connor Pickford and Anthony Simonson, the first singles title of the 2016 PBA Tour will be determined next. And Chris Barnes on a good comeback path, Randy. Skipped the PBA Fall Classic and the World Series of Bowling. And Barnes, in his first competitive PBA event back in 2016, lands himself a couple matches shy of another title.
Well, I thought Chris looked really, really good today. I think it's just another couple of weeks, maybe a month before he's up to full strength. I don't know if his back is ever going to be the same because your body's never the same after you have surgery. But, you know, I don't see any residual effects at all from the back surgery. And you don't get this far in this event. You don't bowl as well as Chris did on television today without being just about all the way back from surgery. And I look forward to watching the Tournament of Champions and the majors to follow. I think Chris Barnes is back, and this is certainly something for him to be very positive about.
A lot of elements learned and further rehab for Barnes as the majors are coming up in February, and Amleto Monacelli with quite a bit of history on his mind as he finishes up in the 10th to stay in rhythm. And good rhythm, 10 straight back. Monacelli trying to get to 20 titles. It's been over a decade since his last win.
Although Amleto has won on the senior tour, he did win back-to-back senior U.S. Opens, but it's been a long time since he's won on the regular tour.
Just over a decade since his last win on the PBA Tour. 279 still a possibility for Monacelli. He's already defeated Chris Barnes and will bowl Dom Barrett for this title. 6 slaps to 10, and good momentum builder, Randy, heading into the title match.
Absolutely. I don't know if Amleto's going to try another bowling ball just to see, but when you shoot 279, you got to pretty much feel that you've got a good command of what you're doing. And I don't know if there's any changes or any test balls that need to be thrown at this point.
One of the elements of Monacelli's game is to put his mind in a place that is not where he's at the moment. And one of his favorite places is the beach. And missing the head pin there, but 275 winner. Good day at the beach.
Who doesn't like the beach, Mike?
Good day at the beach. Amleto Monacelli advances to the title match and will face England's Dom Barrett for the title next. The tallest structure in Japan, the Tokyo Skytree, dominating the landscape here in Tokyo. And time now for the Geico Championship recap with Randy Peterson.
Thanks, Mike. Our opening match featured Chris Barnes against Shota Kawazoe. Chris gets off to a nice start. Kawazoe, though, he would run into trouble. First frame, he would miss the 3-6-10. And then later in the match, he would miss it again. But he struck out late and made this a match. Chris Barnes needing a double in the 10th frame to secure the win. Chris Barnes gets it done. And he advances by a score of 227 to 220. Then in match number 2, Barnes takes on John Szczerbinski. John looking for his first ever title. And he misses a 3-6-9-10 early, and it was all Barnes. Nice pin carry, nice execution, nice win, 232 to 202. And then it was the bionic man of the PBA Tour, 54-year-old Amleto Monacelli, stringing strikes early against Barnes. Barnes with an error late in the match, leaving the 2-8-10. That pretty much sealed the deal. Amleto wins big, 275 to 221, setting up a great championship match.
England's Dom Barrett, Venezuela's Amleto Monacelli. Title match is next from Tokyo. Mike Jakubowski with PBA Hall of Famer Randy Peterson, Tokyo Port Bowl. Amleto Monacelli versus the Dominator, Dom Barrett. Single game match for our first singles title on the 2016 PBA Tour. And Monacelli coming in with big momentum in that 270 plus game.
Lots of momentum. I sure hope Dom Barrett packed a lunch for this match.
Barrett, the tournament leader, elects to begin. 30 years old, out of Colchester, England, looking for his 5th PBA Tour title here today. Lapped this field. Barrett buries a strike. Randy was 10 pins better than anybody else in the field per game.
After round 1, he was in first. After round 2, second. And then back to first and never looked back. Dom Barrett, like you said, MJ, dominated this tournament. But it's still a one-game match for the title. He's going up against the red-hot 54-year-old Amleto Monacelli.
Looking to get back into the winner's circle for the first time since 2005. Opening shot. 6. Dispatches the 10. Monacelli's first win came in this very building back in 1987.
Amleto Monacelli taking on Takeo Sakai. Amleto looking for his first ever title. Taking on one of Japan's legends. But Sakai would run into trouble. First a pocket 7-10. And then he goes right through the face, leaving the 4-6-7, all but handing Amleto the victory. Amleto would step up and take advantage, clinching his first ever career title. Takeo Sakai, however, would come back the following year and win the Japan Cup.
Second frame, Monacelli on the strike. And an opening double.
And Mike, I was fortunate enough to beat Amleto in Japan in 1989. And Amleto could have 3 Japan Cups to his credit.
A legacy of competition here in Japan. Now, Dom Barrett, tournament leader. On competing here in Japan, he says 3 meals a day is important. Try to stay awake as long as you can when you get here and get a routine. How tough is it to cross all those time zones and then be ready to compete?
It's really tough. It's the jet lag is what really gets you.
And double apiece. How do you get over that?
Well, I started going to the doctor and I was getting a prescription for Lunesta, which is a sleep aid that basically gets you back on schedule. But what it did for me was it actually cut my jet lag in half. The food over in Japan is not an issue. The food is just wonderful. Some of the best food you'll ever have anywhere. As we take a look at his arsenal, throwing the Optimist. And again, we see another bowling ball in that 7.5 range. Pretty much all the players have been using that strength today. Take a good look here at Dom Barrett's style. Stroker type style, but he's got all the power necessary for today's modern game. He just really snaps that elbow and wrist at the bottom of the swing. Incredible roll and ball rotation.
Powerful strike, opening turkey for Dom Barrett.
You know, all the great ones today make it look effortless. They have an extremely high rev rate and a lot of power, and they just don't really seem like they're working overtime to create it. And I think that's key.
Title match, all strikes thus far. Monacelli looking to equal the Barrett turkey, 3rd frame. And the messenger misses the 10-pin.
Just got a little wide of target, and with all this friction, the ball's going to be a little slow entering the pins. And this is what created this half-10 hit. Another half-inch left of that, and it's a strike.
Slash in the box conversion for Monacelli, bidding for his 20th PBA Tour title. And with that win, Monacelli would become the 4th oldest champion in PBA history. Six around the 10.
Really good shot there. Back-to-back 10 pins for Amleto. Just inside third arrow. You can see he thought that was really good.
Two-time PBA Player of the Year back in '89 and '90 cleans up the spare in the 4th. Dom Barrett, with his strategy, Randy, says he plays a different ball motion knowing that there's hardly any push on the wood.
The players see a completely different ball reaction on wood than they do on synthetics, and the difference being the wood's more porous, so there's going to be more friction, earlier hook. Normally on synthetics, the players are always looking to get their bowling balls to roll extremely early to blend out the pattern. But on wood and on this shorter 39-foot pattern, the players are looking for the ball to skid through the front part of the lane.
And tight into the nose, just the 3 and the 6.
And it looks like there's less push on the right lane than the left lane. This looks like it's a decent shot. Just maybe up the boards a hair, and it goes right through the face. We saw Chris Barnes do that a couple of times in the last match before he went light to a 10 late.
Conversion and a 10-pin lead for Dom Barrett. Three-time World Bowling Writers Bowler of the Year back in 2008, 9, and 10. The only male ever to win that award in 3 consecutive years. Leads by 10. Title match here at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Tournament leader looking to take it to the house. 5th frame. Just a touch high. 4-pin.
I really thought after he won the World Championship in 2013 that he was going to start dominating this tour and really start piling up the wins, and it just hasn't happened. I'm not sure what changed after his major victory.
Barrett on the spare. 9-pin lead now. Monacelli can throw 2 strikes and take the lead. Last PBA Tour title over a decade ago at the 2005 Jackson Hewitt Tax Service Open in Fairlawn, Ohio. Monacelli, winner on the PBA 50 circuit, looking to return to the winner's circle on the PBA Tour and join 13 other PBA greats. Trails by 9, 5th frame.
That's the pin action he's looking for right there. After back-to-back 10 pins, feathers that one nicely at his target, and then the ball goes through the pins perfectly.
Chance to take the lead here with another strike for Monacelli. Touch high, but he crumbles the 4.
When you're putting a good touch on the bowling ball, the pins know it and they react accordingly. This is just a pinch inside of target, but he gets the nice break on the trip 4. The difference between getting it off your hand clean and pinching it or grabbing it at the bottom is a trip 4 versus a 4-pin or a 4-9 pocket split.
So after the Barrett turkey, Monacelli takes the lead, and now Barrett up 6 frame. Barrett shakes out the round.
I think it's that Dom Barrett has one of the best releases on the PBA Tour. Just a tremendous hand at the bottom. I put him in that same category with Wes Malott. Just unique ball roll, very strong, very heavy, a lot of revs.
Major champion Dom Barrett can double and take the lead back from Monacelli, who turned that trick on him the previous 2 frames. First crack, 7th frame. Barrett takes the lead right back.
Brilliant shot. Following up that strike on the right lane. That bent elbow and that snap of the wrist is how he creates that power.
Monacelli up 7th frame. A strike can take the lead back in this seesaw affair championship match. Mixing strike, and the lead goes right back to Monacelli.
A wise man once said, hit him thin and watch him spin. And that's exactly what Amleto does right there. What a great match.
Back and forth, and now back in the Monacelli column, plus 1 thin stick. Can extend that to 11 with another strike, 8th frame. Buries it. Perfect strike for Monacelli.
Relentless. Just pures this shot. Look at that balance at the foul line. The athleticism of 54-year-old Amleto Monacelli.
Volleys right back to Barrett. Each player with 2 non-strikes. Monacelli with the benefit of the 4-bagger and the 11-pin lead, and Barrett in a position now to go strike to take the lead back. Doesn't get the 10.
You know, I thought the left lane was the better of the 2 lanes. Dom Barrett, being the tournament leader, got choice of starting lane, and he chose to start on the left and finish on the right. I think that's a disadvantage.
Higher seed determines starting and finishing lanes. Barrett made that call. Now he's got to live with it. Picks up a spare there, getting late in our title match. Barrett trails by 12. Needs to set himself up in the foundation frame.
It was a really good shot he made on the right lane for that ball to come up that late. It doesn't do that on the left lane.
Monacelli with history on his mind. Barrett visualizing success in the 9th. Taking a little extra time here, Randy.
Oh, unlucky. Really good pitch there. Look at that rotation on that bowling ball. I mean, he almost left the pocket 7-10. At this stage of the match, when Amleto's doing what he's doing and you're trailing, the last thing you want to see as a player is bad pin carry.
Gives that pin a ride, does Dom Barrett. Slashing the box, ninth frame. Frames are running out. And now Monacelli will finish first. Max score for Dom Barrett is 235.
A strike in the ninth frame and any mark in the 10th, and Amleto Monacelli will capture title number 20.
Six gets the 10.
Oh, and it gets the 10 with authority, MJ. Watch this 10 get slapped silly. Bam! Get out of my face.
Monacelli just now needing a mark to shut out Dom Barrett, a clean frame away from PBA Tour history to claim that trophy and the 20th PBA Tour title, joining 13 other PBA legends to win 20 or more on the PBA Tour, and to do it at the age of 54. 10th frame. Monacelli has added to a Hall of Fame resume. He has done it at the age of 54. Only John Handigard and Buzz Fazio have earned PBA Tour titles later in life than the great Amleto Monacelli. His 20th PBA Tour title, becoming the 14th to earn that distinction.
Just a magnificent performance by Amleto Monacelli. The shot making, playing the lanes the way he did, just repeating. Some nice pin carry, got a couple of breaks, tripping the 4. But just a brilliant, brilliant performance.
Amazing bookends as his first victory coming here at Tokyo Port Bowl in 1987, and his 20th also at Tokyo Port Bowl. Dom Barrett dominated during the match play here at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational, runner-up finish.
And it's tough to watch your tournament leader dominate like Dom Barrett did, only to lose in a one-game match. But unfortunately, that is the format we use for television. And sometimes that's the way it plays out. But it's good to see Dom Barrett bowling well. It's good to see what I think he should be doing a lot more of. And this is a good feeling to have with big February right around the corner and all the majors that are in front of these two players.
The Tournament of Champions, the Masters, and the Players in big February, all in front of the world's greatest bowlers. But Amleto Monacelli claims the title, hoists the trophy for the 20th time on the PBA Tour.
And revisiting 1987 one more time, where Amleto captured his very first title in this building, Tokyo Port Bowl. And here we are years later, the 54-year-old making history, winning his 20th title, becoming the 4th oldest player ever to win on the tour. I used to room with Amleto when he was a young man. I competed against him throughout my entire career. He's a gentleman and a true champion. And it's been an honor and a privilege to not only know him, but to compete against him. Congratulations to one of the hardest working players in the history of our sport. He takes his 20th title, beats Dom Barrett 255, 233. Now let's go down to the lanes with Mike J. and our champion.
Amleto Monacelli, champion at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Amleto, your ball reaction looked amazing from the very start.
Yes, actually, I started using that ball yesterday. Seems like the lanes start hooking a lot. And the track hit is a ball that really gets down the lane real nice and nice backhand, and felt very comfortable with my game.
PBA history, you become the 14th player in PBA history to win 20 titles, the first and this title coming in this very building.
Yes, actually, when I was flying over, I was thinking about that, and it was like, it would be nice. It would be a nice dream to come true, and then I just let that dream on the side, and I had a long way to go, and here I am reaching it. Japan's been very lucky for me. This is a country I really love to come every year, and it's just great to be here and see all the friends, all my fans, and this is great. Thank you so much for all the support, and we'll see you next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2016 DHC PBA Japan Invitational champion, Amleto Monacelli.
And congratulations once again to Amleto. Well, folks, if you like majors and you like live bowling, you're going to love Big February, starting off next week with the Fire Lake PBA Tournament of Champions, all live in February. Mike J.
PBA competition in Japan. For the DHC PBA Japan Invitational, Shota Kawazoe represents the home team. Szczerbinski, Barnes, and Barrett. But if you can dream it, you can do it. Amleto Monacelli makes PBA history with his 20th career PBA Tour title. For Randy Peterson, this is Mike Jakubowski. See you next week for the start of Big February live on ESPN.